trying to get to my superfood smoothies. So straight away you got the old cookie notification, which is an overlay, so I can't do anything until I accept. I get in, I want my smoothie recipe, and they've given me a big block capital heading, which is slightly hard to read, and then a slightly different color here for, I guess that's a subheading, but it's center aligned, so that's kind of not easy. Your eye sort of just going to scan to the middle. Then a frustrating pop-up that I didn't ask for, which I've got to click away from. Then you've got an ad scrolling along the bottom, so that's got unnecessary animation that's going to jolt, might be quite jarring, can definitely distract when you're trying to read. And all I'm trying to get to is the actual recipe. Here's some video that's unrelated, that's just kicked off and started playing straight away in the browser. That's quite annoying. Some story about a disease healthy journey. I'm still just trying to get the recipe, because this is an article about a smoothie. Some story. Another auto-playing video on an advert. This is horrible. Now we've started listing the ingredients, but they're all center aligned. So it doesn't look like a list at all. It's really jarring. And every time you hover over one of them, a sort of slightly misaligned pop-up obscures all the content on the page. I mean, this really is look at this. It's just so hard to read. Like, your eye can't scan it because of, again, it's not left aligned, so your eye is jumping constantly. It's really horrible. And then the list is repeated the second time, so this is SEO. It's really horrible. This is probably technically a good website in terms it probably makes money, and it, sells ads, and it gets traction, and it ranks well in SEO. This is like what we've done with web now, that this is classed as a successful website and breaks every single rule of design and accessibility. Continuing with the accessibility chapter, probably the last topic, the last thing. What we've generally looked at are kind of just aspects rather than just the usual videos about how to make accessible websites, because that stuff you can generally find in lots of places, and that's also the kind of detail stuff that can deter people from getting involved in trying to make websites accessible, the kind of skip to content and ARIA roles, and how to make things scalable and workable across lots of devices. I've generally tried to look at things which are really easy to just pick up straight away, so quick Css fixes, things you might not have realized, it's things that you can do easily in your workflow that will make big impacts. It'd be good to just also look at things that are just built into the design, the HTML, the workflow, before you even start any development, having some accessibility in mind, but also rather than this idea of accessibility being this unit and these polyfills or these fixes for people who don't get the full experience. It's just about making the best website you can, and accessible doesn't necessarily mean for disabled people so much as just making it easy to access and use. So I found this article from Website Setup, 15 things to improve your website accessibility. It's all great, do your thing. In the click-away pound survey, click-away pound. What are the main blocks to completing purchases? Here are the top barriers. Crowded pages with too much content, captcha tests, poor legibility, distraction of moving images and graphics, poor link information, and form filling. So that just really should resonate with so many people, even if you don't class yourself as disabled or needing accessible websites. We've definitely experienced so many variations of these pains with content or the flow, things that are too jarring on a page. Captures can often be a problem. Not being able to find the link or filling out forms is probably one of the main pains on day-to-day usage of the internet. So in the details about too much content, it's just a suggestion of, break your content up into lists, use simple language. There's this thing about have one H1 on a page, which for years has been a thing about SEO, which I've never worked. I think it's There was a time when you get marked down for more than one H1. I think you can have more than one. I can't remember what the detail is, but generally you've got a heading, a detail of what that page does. It might make sense. Think about your subheadings and your hierarchy of your content. Use bulleted lists. I was looking for a smoothie. I landed on this page for a tropical carrot smoothie. What the hell is this? Like, I suppose my eye is led here to this quote, which isn't really that important. And then you sort of scan upwards, and there's a heading, and then there's sort of a two-tier menu. Every time I hover on something, it changes color at the top here, but also another pop-out menu then obscures the content. And then there's boxes here, which show conditionally, and then there's an image on the right here, which again is just a heading. It's not all that important. There's just so much content. It's one of those things that really jar us straight away. Of this, just so much going on visually, it's hard to get any context of what I'm supposed to be looking at. Use plain English. So this might not be on the side of the developer or even the designer, but the content you'd use, trying to make that readable is helpful. Capture. I mean, they've got these pictures of the old-fashioned ones, which really were sometimes just a complete blocker for using a website. Even these new ones with click all the pictures of a traffic light or whatever, they can really jar you. I don't know if there's a lot you can do around that, other than only use them if they're really necessary. The suggestion here about obviously contrast of colors is important. Make sure you've got the text that's readable. All caps headings are slightly harder to read. It's nice to have the lower case with caps, so your eye just reads words more naturally. Left align your text. I mean, certainly don't center too much text, and justifying where you kind of create blocks, this can be quite hard to read versus again having a natural flow of language. Distracting images. We've talked a little bit about media queries that can stop animations if you don't want those and those aspects, but you could just consider it all together. Like, does this graphic help us? Does this animation actually benefit the website, or is this just us showing what we can do? Poor link information. It's a suggestion here that for screen readers in particular, having links that just say click here or read more doesn't have any context to it. So in this design here, they've just got 4 buttons that say read more. That's quite frustrating. So if you can, your content can have a very specific thing, as in like view gallery, read article, it's got more context around it. And if you do have to have read more, you can attach an ARIA label here that's going to give a bit more context and detail. It just helps a screen reader who's not seeing the design. Make links look like links, underline, make them look like things, make that clear. Tell people if a link opens in a new tab. Sometimes that little icon that says click this is going to open, that'll avoid it being jarring. Tell people if it's a link to a file, because again, you're trying to anticipate what's going to happen when you click a button. Is this going to page, is going to close, or is something going to start loading? What's going to happen? So giving people that kind of assurance of what's going to happen when they click is just pleasant. Form filling. Autofill is your friend. Sometimes it's been mentioned as a security flaw. I think people can use autofill in devious ways, but it's definitely helpful in avoiding filling out details. Make form fields look like form fields, so trying to make really cool styled things which are really minimal and clean and lovely, but if people can't see the borders, they can't see that it's a typed in field, you've not made a good design. You've made something that's kind of sleek and cool, but it's that kind of form over function. Make sure your label has its for tag to reference the ID. That way you can click on the label for a checkbox or a radio, but also it just makes it much more semantic, much clearer. And you can also do the same with a search. You can add ARIA label search on the input and link to it with the label. Most common errors on the top million home pages. Number 1 is just low contrast text. So you can so easily just change this. Just squint at your page, you can see text that's slightly harder to read, and you can easily adjust it too. There's 100 tools out there to let you test it, including the dev tools will straight away tell you how easy your text contrast looks. Missing alt text for images, really straightforward. Empty links, again links that don't have the correct description or ARIA roles, or links on images or things that it's not clear what you're clicking. Missing form input labels, really simple HTML fix. Missing document language, that's just an attribute on a page. Look at that, like such a high percentage of these websites will suffer from something like that, and these are like less than a day's work to just attach all these things. And it's not about catering to some small percentage of users. You're just talking about making your website better and easier to use. There's also the help a visitor get around your content. So again, using the HTML5 tags for header, footer, navigation, there's helps Google or whoever to understand what the structure of your page is and help you to promote certain aspects of content. It helps you as a developer to see what those different sections are that you're building out. You can semantically name them with native HTML elements. So you're helping yourself as much as you are the website. Use HTML properly. That's one of their tips. Here's a tip to make a good website. Just do it properly. The usual stuff about don't use your buttons and don't hide your focus ring. That's the main learning point from about an hour's worth of videos, I think. Frameworks aren't inherently inaccessible if you choose your components wisely. Frameworks are a problem in that obviously you need JavaScript enabled, but you're basically just building out all your structure and your content, and you've got a lot of free reign to do whatever you like, and to style things exactly as you like, without really having to worry about this. Certainly if you're leaning into component libraries, you're just going to bundle a lot of things in and break all the rules about how to make things work. I think sometimes it's similar with performance. I think people sometimes seem to think, well, we're using React and that's going to make it fast, and it's just the opposite is true. You're saying let's bundle a load of extra JavaScript onto this site and that will somehow make it more performant. I think people similarly can sometimes go, well, we'll just put in the components, and then presumably the makers of the library have thought of a way to turn this into making it really good HTML content or something. And no, it's down to you still. Revenge CSS puts pink error boxes everywhere you write bad HTML. Ooh, it's one to look at. Yeah, I think that people put off for ages because they feel like it's a stressful thing to have to go away and focus on accessibility and learn a bunch of new things. Whereas I think a lot of it just stems from having a good mindset and how you approach designs from the start and how you want to go about making good content. And then the accessibility stuff will flow. There could be towards the end you kind of want to think more about, I say, some very specific accessibility workarounds, but really that should be the kind of last sprinkling of it. If you built the site well, again using just standard HTML conventions, that will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. That's worth considering. That's a lot. So we're gonna move on to some other topics, but it's been a fun little dip into accessibility. Please do leave any comments or useful links in the comments, and I'll see you soon.